dawn or sunrise towards the beach, but I'm like, no, in LA the sun rises on the East Coast, not on the West Coast. So little things like that take me out of the movie.
Drive-By Movies, you're watching
Fresh releases.
My name's Blaze.
And my name is James.
And this week we're talking the film that's available on Amazon Prime, Run Sweetheart Run.
I'm not gonna go anywhere, sweetheart. What are you?
Run Sweetheart Run was intended to come out in 2020. I remember seeing the trailers for it before The Invisible Man, the last movie I saw before the world went to crap. And finally it came out in December, I believe, of 2022. We're finally getting around to checking it out. It comes from Blumhouse, and it's after what seems to be an innocent date. Sherry now faces a night of terror when her date hunts her down and tries to kill her. She now must run for her life throughout the city and escape his grasp. And that city is Los Angeles, where I currently live, and I can't wait to talk about the city of LA and some of the certain aspects of LA that don't work within this movie. But yeah, I've been wanting to check this out. It's been on my watch list forever, and I follow a pretty good amount of people on Letterboxd. No one I follow has seen this movie. Everyone knew about this movie, I feel like, yet nobody's seen it, so that's why we're checking it out. What are your initial thoughts, Blaze?
So this film, like you said, I think I remember right before lockdown, we literally watched The Invisible Man in theaters. And I remember like even being on edge kind of in that movie, because literally the next day, I think that's when everything locked down. And I remember seeing this trailer, and I remember even it piquing my interest of being like, oh, this looks kind of interesting. It looks like an interesting take. It's definitely got that Blumhouse quality. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I guess you can judge, on depending on which films. Some of them, glaringly show maybe their low budgetness, and some kind of try to go for something bigger, and maybe they succeed, maybe they don't. Just depends on, per picture basis. But anyways, getting into Run Sweetheart Run, this is a film that I thought had a really kind of interesting concept. It was reminiscent to a lot of movies that were not a lot, but reminiscent to a lot of the topics that were popular in 2019. I think, being that it took so long to come out, and eventually they did reshoot some stuff in 2022. I think that this film did, severely kind of hurt by a lot of the artistic choices that they made. I wouldn't necessarily say I enjoyed this movie. I don't think it's horrible. I think they just made a lot of like specific creative choices that might have seemed like they should work or be interesting on paper, but really when you watch the movie, they kind of detract from it. And overall, this film was just pretty disappointing.
Well, overall, I really liked it, but I agree with what you're saying. I'll get into it. There's a lot of aspects that I like, but I'd say overall the main problem with the movie is the editing. I'm curious to see what was done for their reshoots, just because I feel like a lot of changes were made with the editing to kind of change the tone of the movie. Because overall, there's the first hour of the movie and then the second hour of the movie. The first hour does kind of go towards like a B-movie plot line, but after about the 1 hour mark is finally when we're revealed what Ethan is for the most part and what Ethan's intentions are. And I was down for it, but I wanted it to take a more B-movie tone, and some of the editing aspects felt like they were trying to make it into a B-movie, but it never actually went in that hardcore direction that movies like Barbarian and Malignant did at that 1 hour period. So I was waiting for it to happen. It just kind of felt like it was playing it safe for the most part. I'm not sure if certain aspects were added with these reshoots or not. Like, I'm interested to look more into it, but overall, like, I do like the script. I like the story, but certain aspects, like certain scenes, I felt like would have benefited if it was placed towards the end. Like, there's a massacre scene with the main characters, like, going into spoilers, like there's a big group that our lead character hangs out with midways to the movie. And I thought it would have been better to move that towards the end of the movie with better reveals and stuff, because it didn't really make sense being in the middle. Like, I'll go into it a little bit more with spoilers, but yeah, I'm a little disappointed overall, but I think it's still a solid debut. And there's a lot to like within this movie with a great script and great cinematography, but just could have been done just slightly better.
Yeah, definitely. For me, a lot of the problems that I had with it was their choices that they made to like not show any of the violence, specifically, you know, from our main character, or not main character, our main antagonist, Ethan. It just, they don't really show any of the violence. I did not like the supernatural aspect of this film. I mean, if you originally watched that trailer, the first trailer, I don't think they ever allude to there being any supernatural elements. So I think that caught me a little off guard, but they didn't do anything cool with that aspect. It really just kind of like, I was like, okay, well, this could have just been not like, I feel like you could have made this movie more interesting, more poignant, I think would be the main thing if it was like actually not, you know, a supernatural element to it. It did really nothing for me. It kind of made everything just a little too ethereal, and I felt like you could have something more along the lines of a Promising Young Woman, maybe if it was like more realistic, and it maybe not like a pure comedy like Promising Young Woman almost feels like at times. Mm-hmm. But I feel like you could have done the actual like kind of horror movie version of it. Although this film, I feel like strays so far away from horror because they choose not to show really any violence for the most part, specifically with our antagonist. And that's kind of where it lacked for me, because I'm like, this is like a genre movie, but you know, to what end?
Yeah, and that's why I wanted that more B-movie aspect. If we're going to go with such a ridiculous kind of twist towards the halfway point of the movie, go all out with it. Like, I like the serious tone overall, but then just adding the weird freeze frames and stuff, like nothing against the freeze frames, but like, you know, that gives it a more comedic feel. Yeah. But just nothing about it was really comedic though. So that's why I was just like, if we're going to go in this direction, you know, stick with it. So that was just some of the issues I had with it tone wise. I'm not sure if it's like a Blumhouse or Amazon made them change it, or maybe just the director wanted to make changes. Like, I'm curious to read more about it. I haven't done that research just yet and stuff, but like, yeah, there's a good like skeleton underneath the skin of this movie and stuff too. Just like needed a little bit more rework and stuff. Some of the things with me living in LA though, like the house that she goes to where all her friends live and stuff, I was just like, this is a beautiful house. Like, and all these kids that live here, like not kids, but you know, they're all in their like mid-20s. I was like, what do they do for a living that have this house, and why are they such jerks and stuff? And like, maybe they're rich like influencers or something that have that house. But if they're rich influencers, why would they have a house like that in Los Feliz? They'd be living in the Hollywood Hills. So little things like that were like bugging me. And then also towards the end of the movie, there's something involving dawn or sunrise towards the beach. But I'm like, no, in LA, the sun rises on the East Coast, not on the West Coast. So why would Ethan, you know, it would be like sunrise by the time he gets to, like, little things like that take me out of the movie and stuff. Like, as annoying as it is, I don't mean to be like super picky, but you know, it's just little things like that like bother me. I'm just like, no, that's just not how like LA works and stuff. There are a few little LA isms in here where I was just like, no, you can't do this. And especially like, it's one thing if like, you know, LA is like a small city people don't know about. No, there's like, what, like 20 million people who live in, maybe not 20 million, but there's millions of people who live in LA and stuff. And like, you know, so, and millions more who have been to LA, billion probably. So yeah, like just there were other things I should have wrote down and stuff, but that was like one thing that like bothered me. But with a smart script, you always want the audience asking questions and stuff and finding out as the story goes on. And it does that, but just like, don't leave us hanging with certain things. Like when you're going out with this campy underground all-woman group that's like fighting Ethan and stuff, like, you know, like go all out with it. Like it just ended with still more open-ended questions and stuff, and like, you know, maybe they could go in another direction with the sequel, but I don't see why there would be a sequel to this. So it could have worked easily as a Promising Young Woman horror film, and I was enjoying that first hour, and I wish I could enjoy the second hour because I was down for the twist, just could have been done better.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those movies that I feel like they had like the right skeleton and bones, but just, I don't know if there was decisions made because this is a directorial debut of like, oh, we want to make it different than other movies that have come before it. But then you start to like, once you see it on screen, you're like, okay, there's reasons that people haven't done this. It just doesn't work. Especially like even just, you know, spoilers, like the fact that they don't really show Ethan's true, you know, form, and they're just shy away from it, and they show like just sound effects. It just feels so cheap and cheesy, and it's not scary. That's one thing about this movie, is like there's nothing about it that's even like super horrific, I feel like, in a way, like that's shown on screen at least. Okay, like the creature Ethan who preys on women and hunt them overnight, like, yeah, that's super creepy, but I just don't feel like we ever got to see that.
Right. Yeah. So like overall, yeah, that's like, for the most part, like I'd say it's a fun watch, and I do recommend people checking out. It's, I'd say, one of the better like Blumhouse straight to streaming movies. Like I see this, like, you know, it probably would have been popular in theaters. Like I don't think it would have been like, I think it like overall got decent reviews. I don't see it being like a mega hit for Blumhouse, but like, you know, I see it being still a fun movie that people would have enjoyed. It just sucks that it kind of got stuck into this weird like frame of supposed to come into theaters, and you know, had big billing advertisements, and then somehow Amazon acquired it and decided to release it straight on streaming, and just nobody saw it though. Like I don't know anyone who reviewed this movie. Like, you know, maybe Chris Stuckman did, I don't know, but like, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I say, like, if you're on Amazon Prime and you're trying to watch one of those straight to Blumhouse movies, this is probably your best bet, because it was going to be in theaters at one point. A lot of the deal that was struck between Blumhouse and whatever streaming service, first to start with Hulu Plus, then it went to Amazon. I'm sure they're either going to Netflix next. So, you know, maybe you wait till one of those, but I think this is probably your best bet on Amazon Prime.
Yeah, so yeah, it's easy to watch. Check it out through Amazon Prime. If you haven't, though, you could also check it out through our Amazon affiliate link in our description box below, because that's a great way to help support the show. Do that and come back here, letting us know what you thought about it in our comment section.
And if you guys haven't already, go ahead and smash that like button, hit the subscribe button, and click that notification bell to get all of our latest updates.
And if you can't get enough of us here on YouTube, catch all our social media links down below for Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, as well as our Letterboxd accounts. That'll conclude this week's episode. Tune in next week for a brand new video.